working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. First, President Duterte on Monday started his fifth State of the Nation address with a tirade against ABS-CBN's owners, and in his speech, the president also slammed Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon, who he said arrogantly said that rich families didn't need to be oligarchs, and linked the anti-political dynasty advocacy to the issue of oligarchy. Let's listen in.
My countrymen, it is sad that while government focuses its attention resources to battle the coronavirus, there are those who take advantage of a preoccupied government. One of them is Senator Frank Dillon. In an interview, he arrogantly mentioned, among others, that oligarchs need not be rich. Then he linked the anti-dynasty system with oligarchy, and the topic was my daughter and son. This happened after the Committee of Franchise voted 70-11 to deny the grant of franchise to ABS-CBN. Obviously, he was defending the Lopezes, that they are not oligarchs. Great wealth enable economic elites and corporations to influence public policy to their advantage. Media is a powerful tool in the hands of oligarchs like the Lopezes, who use their media outlets in their battles with political figures. I am a casualty of the Lopezes during the 2016 election.
Previous public speeches said he had paid for an ad to be aired over ABS-CBN when he was still Davao Mayor and running for president, but he said this was never aired. Face-to-face classes are prohibited unless a vaccine against the coronavirus disease has been developed, according to President Duterte.
The risk of exposure to the sickness are eliminated. I cannot unwill the comfort of the homes until the COVID-19 vaccine is available. I will not allow the traditional face-to-face teaching or learning unless the risk of exposure to the sickness are eliminated. I cannot and will not put to rest the health and lives of our students and teachers.
Citing that vaccine against COVID-19 is a global need, the president emphasized that getting it from producers or other governments must be dealt with. Increasing investments in Thailand's food sector, and officials are considering restoring normal classroom operations. Joining us live from Bangkok is Faye Barte. Hello, Faye.
Good afternoon, Alma, and to all the viewers. Yes, you are correct. The Thailand Board of Investment stated that from January 2019 to June 2020, international and local investors filed 116 investment promotion applications for food processing and drinks manufacturing projects in Thailand, representing a total value of 18.8 billion baht, or 600 million US dollars. Under the government's Thailand 4.0 strategy to become the innovation hub of Asia, high-tech food processing is one of the key industries the government has selected to promote. the BOI is offering incentives to investors in this sector, including exemption of corporate income tax for up to 8 years and so-called smart visas that enable investors and key employees to stay in the country for up to 4 years. In line with the school opening on July 1, the Public Health and Education Ministries are looking to restore normal classroom operations given that no new COVID-19 transmissions have been recorded since the beginning of the new term almost a month ago. Spokesman of the CCSA, or the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, said it had authorized the Department of Disease Control under the Ministry of Public Health to work with the Education Ministry to assess the situation in schools nationwide since most campuses reopened on July 1. The assessment found that all schools and other educational institutions had so far been free of COVID-19 infections. The CCSA spokesman added, the arrangement heard the cognitive development and social interaction skills of those studying from home. The two ministries are now discussing the possibility of restoring normal school hours and operations, and with strict health safety measures. With the COVID-19 situation here in Thailand, as of today, Thailand reported 2 new confirmed cases from people on repatriation flights and in-state quarantine centers. 0 deaths reported, and the total remains at 3,297 infections. And because today, Alma, it's the king's birthday, His Majesty King Maha Vajiralongkorn. There was a live broadcast today of an oath-taking ceremony of government officials to be good civil servants and a united force of the nation on the occasion of His Majesty the King's birthday today. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Faye, what do you plan for your birthday? Happy birthday, Faye.
Thank you very much, Alma, for greeting. It's a holiday today here, so maybe it's a good plan to go out just for a while and then and just have a rest.
If you do go out, don't forget your mask.
Yeah, strict measurements will be followed.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you, Faye, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for your greetings. And this is Faye Barte. We live in interesting times.
An alarm in Vietnam as they detected a new strain of the coronavirus. Plus, the Ministry of Transport is also considering plans to transport travelers left stranded in Da Nang. Eliana Faith Sebastian joins us live from Vietnam. Hello, Eliana.
Hi, Alma.
Go ahead, Faye. Eliana.
Here are the new updates here in Vietnam. A new coronavirus strain has been recorded here in Vietnam. New patients suffering from COVID-19 in Da Nang City and Quang Ngai Province are likely to have contracted the virus from different sources in the community, said Acting Health Minister Nguyen Tan Long. Speaking at a meeting with the National Steering Committee for COVID-19 Prevention and Control on Monday morning, he said genetic analysis revealed they were infected with a strain of SARS-CoV-2 new to Vietnam that is common in several regional countries. It is a more contagious strain, he said, adding that it's the 6th strain recorded in Vietnam. Experts at the meeting said the preliminary epidemiological investigations showed 4 COVID-19 cases in the community confirmed over the past weekend were linked to 3 hospitals in the central city of Da Nang. These health facilities are Da Nang Hospital, Da Nang Hospital C, and Da Nang Orthopedic and Physical Rehabilitation Hospital. An additional 11 cases announced on Monday evening were all linked to Da Nang Hospital. Addressing the meeting, Deputy Prime Minister Vu Duc Tam asked relevant agencies to continue applying accumulated experience in COVID-19 prevention. Drastic measures, including those utilized in handling large hotspots like Hanoi's Bac Mai Hospital, should be adopted. He said that the role of the epidemiological investigation and collaboration among the police and army in determining the source of transmission were extremely important. The Ministry of Health was asked to take samples for testing with the deployment of test kits manufactured in Vietnam. The Ministry of Health has sent experts to Da Nang to help contain the outbreak and help track the source of infection. A lockdown order would be imposed on the 3 hospitals, like the one applied on Bakmay Hospital in April. The ministry will provide utmost support for the city in the quarantine, treatment, and tracing the source of infection. To prevent the spread of the disease, experts suggested all people who return home from Da Nang and are linked to the 3 hospitals must be quarantined for 14 days, while those returning from the city but are not linked to the hospital must make a health declaration. They also said that it was essential to impose social distancing in Da Nang City. Nguyen Man Hung, Minister of Information and Communications, called on local governments and residents to collaborate in completing electronic health declarations via the nCoV and Blue Zone apps. Over the past weekend, 3 residents in Da Nang and 1 resident in Quang Ngai were confirmed positive for SARS-CoV-2 virus. They are patients number 416, 418, 419, and 420, of whom patient 416 and patient 418 are in severe health conditions as they need ventilators. A further 11 patients were recorded as positive on Monday evening, bringing the national total to 431. Another update, Alma, airlines are to increase flights to transfer passengers from Da Nang. Local airlines have announced they would increase flights to support passengers traveling to and from the city right after Da Nang restarted social distancing measures on Sunday, as 4 COVID-19 patients were found in the coastal city over the weekend. The airlines also announced policies to support ticket exchange for passengers in the city, one of the most popular tourism spots in Vietnam, which resumed tourism activities earlier in July. According to the booking data of the local airlines, from July 27 to July 31, the number of passengers expected to arrive and stay in the city could reach 80,000. There are now 11 routes from domestic airports to the airport, with approximately 100 one-way flights per day. On Monday, the director of the Civil Aviation Authority of Vietnam, or the CAAV, Dien Viet Tăng, told local media that the CAAV requested all airlines in the country to increase flights to and from Da Nang. To ensure the safety and health of passengers and the community, all the airlines will maintain disinfection of the entire fleet of aircraft, as well as implement measures to conduct health checks. The flight crew are equipped with masks, gloves, and alcohol wipes, while passengers on the plane are required to wear a mask during the flight. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Eliana, for your updates there in Vietnam. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Stay safe too, Alma. Thank you so much. Reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. This is Eliana Pate Sebastian. We live in interesting times.
In Malaysia, the health ministry said people should comply with the SOP or standard operating procedures when it comes to COVID, or it may be hit by a third wave of infections. Joining us live from Malaysia is Gail Aldos. Hello, Gail.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And yes, that is the latest news. Malaysia is set to be hit by a third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic if the people continue to be complacent about complying with a standard operating procedure, such as wearing face masks and practicing social distancing, said Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah. He said the increase in new clusters could cause a spike in cases if the outbreak is not properly controlled. According to him, a COVID-19 is possible if Malaysians do not adhere to the SOP. Preventive measures are more important. He said at the COVID-19 media briefing yesterday that the new clusters are like embers, and if people do not comply with the SOP, it's like the people are the fuel. So when fuel mixes with embers, it will cause a huge blaze, which means a sudden spike in cases. He said the health ministry has recorded 120 cases in the 30th epidemiological week from July 19 to July 25, and this is worrying, especially if the number of new cases continue to rise. He said if there are 2,000 to 3,000 cases in a week, then hospitals will be crowded and they won't be able to treat the patients. At that time, the control measures will only be focused on hospitals. He continued that now, at the early stage, they still can control by practicing the SOP, such as wearing face masks and social distancing. These two methods have been proven to break the chain of infection by 60 to 70%. He said they have a very small time period and space to break the chain. What is certain, though, is that if people can comply with the SOP, then people can return to their normal daily lives. The first wave of the COVID-19 outbreak in Malaysia was through tourists from China early this year, while the second wave was the import cases. Asked about the use of single-ply and two-ply face masks, Dr. Nur Hisham said they were not effective in preventing one from being infected by the virus. He said the World Health Organization, WHO, had issued guidelines stating that the face mask must use hydrophilic and hydrophobic material to avoid COVID-19 infection. He said the Health Ministry does not encourage the use of single-layer face masks. Non-medical face masks must have 3 layers. If people want to use face masks made of cloth, then make sure they are of the 3-ply type. He also mentioned looking to provide face masks for the needy like the B40 group. Back to you, Alma.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good point. So, three.
3-ply.
Okay, yes, that's right. That's the most effective. Thank you very much, Gail, for your updates there. Thank you, EBC Kuala Lumpur Bureau.
Thank you, Alma. Reporting live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, this is Gail Aldos, and we live in interesting times.
All right, to Cambodia now, where the government is banning flights from Malaysia and Indonesia. Joining us live from Cambodia is Meldy Mahinay. Hello, Meldy. Good afternoon.
Hi, Alma.
Okay, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, here's the latest update. Alarm over the number of COVID-positive passengers coming in via Malaysia and Indonesia. The government is temporarily suspending flights from both countries from August 1 until their infection rates decline. According to Mr. Hun Sen's statement, the Prime Minister has agreed to temporarily suspend flights from Indonesia and Malaysia after observing the high transmission rates from passengers traveling from both countries. A Ministry of Health statement said, almost all of those who tested positive were Cambodian citizens returning from Russia and Middle East via transit flight through Malaysia. They have been stranded in various Middle East countries and Russia for a lengthy period of time. It said, between June 20 and July 25, the ministry noted a significant increase in imported cases of COVID-19, most of whom took flights from Malaysia and Indonesia. The statement also said the move was light of the upcoming holidays in August, which requires extra measures to be taken to prevent potential virus transmission. Mr. Hun Sen confirms the move yesterday via his official Facebook page, stating the measures were necessary to prevent the spread of virus in Cambodia. Recently, we have observed a large number of people infected with COVID-19 arriving from Malaysia and Indonesia. In response, we have decided to suspend flights temporarily from those through countries, Mr. Hun Sen said. People should not underestimate COVID-19. This respiratory disease is very serious, highly infectious, and there is no cure yet, he said. Last week, the Health Ministry reported 27 more positive cases of COVID-19, which 23 are Cambodian and 4 are Indonesian. The 4 Indonesians are 3 men aged between 37 and 47, and a 47-year-old woman who arrived at Phnom Penh International Airport on July 23. All of them are now being treated at the Chak Angre Krom Health Center in the capital. The 148 passengers who flew with them are continuing their mandatory quarantine in multiple locations. 54 passengers have been quarantined in Kolabsor Phnom Penh Hotel Quarantine Center, and the 92 passengers have been quarantined in Ponchentong High School in the capital. The remaining 2 passengers who reported having a fever have been taken to Khmer Soviet Friendship Hospital and are awaiting test results to determine the cause of their illness. Another 4 Cambodians, 3 men aged between 25 and 29, and a 38-year-old woman who also arrived in Phnom Penh on July 23 and subsequently tested positive for COVID-19, are now being treated at the Chak Angre Krom Health Center. The 55 passengers who flew with them are under quarantine at the Royal Air Force Quarantine Center. The ministry also reported that 15 Cambodian men aged between 24 and 38 who returned from home from Russia and Egypt on July 19 tested positive for the virus. They are currently being treated at the Kampong Speu Provincial Referral Hospital, a statement said. Health Ministry spokeswoman Or Bandin said Cambodians must take the coronavirus threat seriously and urged them to continue practicing prevention measures. Although the most recent cases of COVID-19 were imported, it is still a large number of the new cases, and we cannot ignore that, she said. Bandin also called on domestic tourists to be vigilant as COVID-19 is highly infectious. All travelers must be very careful because risk of coronavirus transmission can occur anytime, any place, and anywhere. Please do not forget to protect yourself or take this pandemic lightly, she added. Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesman Kui Kong could not be reached for comment yesterday. Cambodia has so far identified a total of 225 cases of COVID-19 in the kingdom, consisting of 46 women and 179. Of them, 143 have recovered. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you, Meldy, for your updates there in Cambodia. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Yes, Elma, thank you very much. And this is Meldy Mahinay reporting live from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. We live in interesting times.
ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
Puso ko pong binabati lahat ng ating mga kaibigan mula sa Iglesia ni Cristo. Happy 106th anniversary po sa inyong lahat.
Hello, I'm Mayor Eric Garcetti. In the 106 years since it was first established in the Philippines, Iglesia ni Cristo has grown to include congregations around the world, with more than 24 right here in the City of Angels. And today, in the midst of a global pandemic and an economic crisis, the Church of Christ and Felix Y. Manalo Foundation have stepped up to spread love and serve those who are most in need. Your North Hollywood congregation has been so generous and responsive, hosting blood drives and donating hundreds of care packages of masks and hand sanitizer to protect vulnerable people from COVID-19. Thank you for embodying the Angelino spirit and for all that you do for the East San Fernando Valley community. And I wish members of the Iglesia ni Cristo here in Los Angeles and around the world the most happy 106th anniversary.
Sa ngalan ng mamamayan ng lalawigan ng Davao de Oro, tayo po ay bumabati sa lahat ng ating mga kapatid sa Iglesia ni Cristo sa isang maligaya at makabuluhang ika-106 na anibersaryo. Binabati din natin si kapatid Eduardo Manalo sa kanyang matagumpay na pamamahala sa Iglesia ni Cristo. Nataon ang ating anibersaryo sa panahong mayroong malaking krisis na sinusubok ang ating katatagan. Ngunit, kahit ano pa mang pagsubok na dumating, mananatiling matibay ang ating paniniwala sa mga turo ng Iglesia. Patuloy tayong magkaisa para sa ikabubuti ng nakakarami. Muli ito po si Governor J.V. Tyrone Uy ng probinsya ng Davao de Oro, bumabati sa inyo ng maligayang anibersaryo. Maraming salamat po.
po ay bumabati sa 106 na taong anibersaryo ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Tanggapin niyo po ang aking buong pusong pagtangkilik at pagrespeto sa inyong pong pamunuan at sa inyong kapatiran. Ito po ang inyong lingkod, si Congressman Kit Peña ng unang distrito ng lungsod ng Makati. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Officials around the world reintroduced a raft of restrictions, from beach closures to quarantine measures, to try to tamp down coronavirus hotspots as the official global death toll passed 650,000. As of Monday evening, the U.S., the worst-hit nation in the world, had added another 57,000 cases of infection, and its recorded death toll stood at 147,588, according to Johns Hopkins University. Until Sunday, the number of U.S. daily infections had exceeded 60,000 for 12 straight days, with some days notching more than 70,000 new cases. The global death toll from the pandemic passed 650,000 Monday. Nearly a third of that number is in Europe, according to an AFP tally compiled from official sources at 1600 GMT. Since emerging in China late last year, the virus has killed a total of 650,011 people, but more than 100,000 deaths have been recorded since July 9, and the global toll has doubled in just over 2 months. China reported its highest number of coronavirus cases in 3 months, part of a worrying swell of infections hitting Asia and Europe. Indonesia confirmed its 100,000th coronavirus case as the Red Cross warned that the crisis in the world's fourth most populous country risked spiraling out of control. New infections have also surged in Hong Kong, which for weeks appeared to have infection rates under control. Now, however, everyone in the densely populated territory must wear masks in public from this week. The South Korean government has donated 36.8 million pesos worth of essential medical supplies to support the Philippines' response against coronavirus disease. The donation included 600,000 high quality KF94 masks worth around $500,000 and 7 walk-through COVID-19 testing booths worth $150,000 via the Korea International Cooperation Agency, or KOICA. Korean companies TB Company and SD Biosensor, in cooperation with the South Korean Embassy in Manila, also provided 1,000 face shields and COVID-19 diagnostic tests worth $100,000. South Korean Ambassador to Manila, Han Dong-man, turned over the donation to Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. on Monday. Now, during the handover ceremony, Han said the Korean government and Korean companies put together efforts to provide the medical supplies to aid the Philippines in arresting the spread of COVID-19 and to further deepen the Seoul-Manila ties. Mr. Locsin expressed deep gratitude for the Korean government and companies' active support to assist Manila address the health crisis. The latest aid follows Seoul's test kit donations worth $500,000 last April 2020. And according to the embassy, South Korea is also in the process of providing separate additional humanitarian assistance to the Philippines worth $500,000 from the Korea-ASEAN Cooperation Fund in the coming weeks. The assistance through this fund will be in the form of diagnostic kits, PCR and DNA extraction equipment, and personal protective equipment. The country's two major telecommunication companies, or telcos, got President Duterte's warning to improve their services by December or risk getting shut down. In his fifth State of the Nation address, President Duterte said he would take drastic steps against Globe Telecom and Smart, the wireless arm of PLDT, if they don't improve by the year end. Take a look.
Will belong. I call on our communication companies to improve their services lest we be forced to take drastic steps to address the less than deal service that the public is getting from you. Alam mo itong nagbibigay ng mga public services, you better improve. Huwag naman ninyo kaming pahintayin 10 taon bago kami makakamit ng mga services that the other countries are enjoying. If it's just a question of added capitalization or the infusion of money, go and look for it. Maghanap kayo, because if you are not ready to improve, I might just as well close all of you and we revert back to the line telephone. At kukunin ko yan, i-expropriate ko sa gobyerno. Alam mo itong, I'll be straight, smart, pati itong globe, ilang taon na ito? At ang sagot palagi sa akin, the party cannot be reached because the patience of the Filipino people is reaching its limit. At I will be the one to articulate the anger of the Filipino people. And you might not want what I intend to do with you. Kindly improve the services before December. Better have that line cleared.
Previously, President Duterte hit the telco duopoly, which paved the way for the entry of a third telco player. On July 8, 2019, President Duterte awarded Miss Latel Consortium, now Dito Telecommunity, the permit to operate as the Philippines' third telco provider. The corporation is a consortium led by Davao-based businessman Dennis Uy and composed of Uy's Udena Corporation, its subsidiary Chelsea Logistics, and China Telecommunications Corporation. In his fourth SONA then, the president vowed that the entry of the Dito Telecommunity is corruption-free. Meanwhile, he also urged authorities to protect Filipinos' data and privacy online and run after online scammers. And Manila cannot afford to go to war against Beijing to forcefully retake the Philippine territory it occupies in the South China Sea. Thus said President Duterte in his penultimate State of the Nation address on Monday. Under his administration, the president assured that the government works without fail in protecting Manila's rights in the region through diplomatic means, neither beholden nor a pawn to anyone. Take a look.
And beyond, the Filipino nation claims its rightful place in a community of sovereign states. Thus, we will continue to pursue an independent foreign policy. Let me be very clear about this. May I cut my prepared speech? Alam mo, na the Americans would intend to go back to Subic. I'll just put on record my thoughts. I have nothing against America. I have nothing against China. But if you put bases here, you double the spectacle of a most destructive thing. Just like Manila during the Second World War, during the retaking of this city, one of the most devastated cities in the world. Ay ang maglagay-lagay ka ng base at this time. This will ensure, if war breaks out, because there would be atomic arsenals brought in, this will ensure the extinction of the Filipino race. We work without fail to protect our rights in the South China Sea, neither beholden nor a pawn to anyone. We broaden the boundaries of Philippine diplomacy. We build productive ties with everyone. China has the arms. We do not have it. So, it's simple as that. They are in possession of the property. So what can we do? We have to go to war. And I cannot afford it. Maybe some other president can, but I cannot. Inutil ako dyan, sabihin ko sa inyo. And I'm willing to admit it. The moment I sent my Marines there at the coastal shores of Palawan, tinamaan ng cruise missile lahat yan. Hindi pa nga naka-sit sail yan eh.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana assured that no bases of American troops of any kind will be constructed in Subic Bay. Tensions had been escalating between China and the U.S. since the latter released its new policy in the South China Sea, deploring Beijing's sweeping claims in the region. The resource-rich region is contested by the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Taiwan, and China. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled that Beijing's 9-dash line, an invisible demarcation laying claim on almost the entire South China Sea, is illegal. In other news, Indonesia has detained 2 Vietnamese fishing boats after what it described as a dramatic high seas brawl with sailors desperate to avoid arrest. Take a look. Maritime authorities boarded the boats on suspicion that the crews had been operating illegally at the edge of the South China Sea and said they had wrestled with the fishermen for around 2 hours. Some crew tumbled into the water during the bruising battle, according to a government account of last week's chase, which it first made public on Wednesday. Maruf, the captain of one maritime ministry ship, said nearly 24 Vietnamese and Cambodian nationals were arrested. Indonesia, the world's biggest archipelago nation, says illegal fishing costs its economy billions of dollars annually and has been trying to stop foreign vessels entering its territory. Jakarta claims the southernmost reaches of the South China Sea as its exclusive economic zone. In March, maritime authorities seized 5 Vietnamese fishing boats and nearly 70 crew in the area. Malaysia's ex-leader, Najib Razak, was found guilty on Tuesday in his first trial over the multi-billion-dollar 1MDB scandal, 2 years after the fraud contributed to the downfall of his long-ruling government. Take a look. The former prime minister could now face decades in jail after being convicted on all charges in the case related to the looting of Sovereign Wealth Fund 1 Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB. Billions of dollars were stolen from the investment vehicle and spent on everything from high-end real estate to pricey art, while investment bank Goldman Sachs also became embroiled in this scandal. Anger at the looting played a large part in the shock loss of Najib's long-ruling coalition in elections in 2018, and he was arrested and hit with dozens of charges following his defeat. About 16 months after it began, the Kuala Lumpur High Court delivered a verdict in Najib's first trial, which centered on the transfer of 42 million ringgit from a former 1MDB unit, SRC International, into his accounts. Najib had vehemently denied wrongdoing, but Judge Muhammad Dazlan Muhammad Ghazali took apart all the arguments put forward by his defense and found him guilty on the 7 charges he faced. The charges were 1 of abuse of power, 3 of criminal breach of trust, and 3 of money laundering. The counts of abuse of power and criminal breach of trust are punishable by up to 20 years in jail each, while the money laundering charges are punishable by up to 15 years each. Sentencing was not handed down straight away. The 67-year-old will likely appeal, and he may not be sent to jail immediately. If his conviction is upheld, he will be barred from political office for several years. Najib had insisted he was ignorant of the transactions. The defense team portrayed Najib as a victim and instead sought to paint financier Lau Taik Jo, a key figure in the scandal who has been charged in the U.S. and Malaysia as the mastermind. Lau, whose whereabouts are unknown, maintains his innocence.
Good luck.
ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Happy 106th anniversary sa lahat ng kapatid sa Iglesia ni Cristo sa buong mundo. Sa pangunguna ni Executive Minister Brother Eduardo Manalo, patuloy po kayong magiging inspirasyon sa pagiging disiplinado, matulungin sa kapwa, pagsunod sa gobyerno, lalo sa panahon ng pandemya, at higit sa lahat, pagkakaroon ng matibay na pananampalataya sa Diyos. Muli, happy anniversary at mabuhay po ang INC.
Isang magandang buhay po, pamilyang San Isenyo. Ako po ay narito bilang inyong kabahagi para bumati sa ating mahal na ka-Eduardo at sa kanilang ka-iglesyahan ng 106th anniversary. Maraming salamat po sa pagtulong po sa inyong mga kapatiran na aming mga constituents at higit sa lahat po, salamat po sa inyong paggabay. Mabuhay po kayo at happy anniversary po.
Hindi matatawaran ang katatagan ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Ang kanilang patuloy na paglago sa buong panig ng mundo ay testamento ng tunay na pagkakaisa at matibay na pagkakabigkis tungo sa isang layunin upang tumulong lalo na ngayong panahon ng pandemya. Sa bawat yugto ng kasaysayan ng bansa, nariyan ang INC na handang magbukas ng kanilang pintuan para sa lahat ng mamamayang Pilipino. Naway lalo pang maging matatag ang pinagpalang kapatiran ng pananampalataya upang patuloy kayong makasama ng ating pamahalaan sa pagtulong sa ating mga kababayan. Sa ika-106 na anibersaryo ng pagkatatag ng Iglesia ni Cristo, taimtim kong dinadalangin at 10 ng aking pamilya ang patuloy na paglago ng kapatiran at paggabay na may kapal sa buong pamunuan ng Iglesia. Ito po si Cabsec Carlo Nograles na mainit na bumabati sa Iglesia ni Cristo para sa inyong ika-106 na anibersaryo. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay ang Iglesia ni Cristo.
Welcome back. An American man has been arrested at Toulouse airport while trying to flee to Indonesia after allegedly killing his French wife, whose dismembered remains were found by police, according to prosecutors. The man has confessed to killing Laura Kruger, 52, who taught French at a school in Jakarta, the prosecutor said, and he is due to appear before a judge. Kruger's LinkedIn profile states that she had been living in the Indonesian capital since 2015 and had earlier worked in Shanghai, Cairo, and Hawaii. The couple used to vacation in France and had a holiday home in the village of Périac-sur-Mer on the Atlantic coast in southern France. Kruger's father alerted police when the couple failed to visit him as planned before leaving for Indonesia. And the police found her luggage in the apartment and her dismembered remains in a rainwater drain nearby. The man was arrested at the airport just before he was about to board the plane. The latest murder brings the number of femicides in France this year to at least 40, according to an AFP tally. And Vietnam will suspend all flights and public transport into and out of a city of 1.1 million people, where the country's first coronavirus cases in months were recently detected, according to authorities. Until the weekend, it appeared that the Southeast Asian country had managed to stub out the virus. And with lockdowns lifted since late April, domestic tourists had flocked back to the coastal city of Da Nang. But fresh restrictions on movement, including stopping buses and taxis within the city, were announced following the discovery of Vietnam's first locally transmitted COVID-19 infection in nearly 100 days. The Transport Ministry made the order on Monday evening, just hours before it goes into effect at midnight, 1700 GMT Monday, after a 57-year-old retired Vietnamese man in Da Nang was confirmed to have the disease on Saturday, the first community transmission since April 16. More than a dozen new infections have been found. Da Nang is a popular tourist destination, and its beaches and restaurants have been packed with local visitors. From Monday until the end of the week, the city was scheduled to receive around 80,000 passengers on domestic flights, according to the country's Civil Aviation Authority. Earlier in the day, the body said some airlines would increase outbound flights to ferry fearful passengers out. That was also according to our ABC correspondent earlier. But by nightfall, the Transport Ministry announced all routes in and out of the city would be suspended. Trains, boats to islands, buses, taxis, tourist vehicles in Da Nang will also be halted for 15 days. And most of the new cases in Da Nang were linked to 3 hospitals, which will be put under lockdown from 12 a.m. on July 28 till further notice, according to an announcement of the city's website. And meanwhile, residents in most of the city's districts were also advised to stay home unless absolutely necessary, with a ban on gatherings of more than 2 people in public. And so far, Vietnam has now reported a total of just 431 virus cases, including the new patients in Da Nang, and no deaths, winning praise for its handling of the epidemic. Communist authorities were quick to lock down the country after the virus emerged in neighboring China with a rigorous state quarantine and contact tracing system. Vietnam is still closed to foreign tourism, and international flights remain strictly limited with a 2-week mandatory quarantine for repatriated citizens. And staying in Vietnam, authorities arrested a Chinese national for bringing in foreigners illegally. Ralph Randolph Empire reports.
Vietnamese police have arrested a Chinese man involved in a ring trafficking Chinese nationals into Da Nang and Quang Nam province. Gao Liang-gu, 42 years old, suspected to be the ringleader, was arrested Saturday night at a hotel in Da Nang City's Ngu Hain Son district. He is believed to have organized the trafficking of Chinese nationals into Da Nang and nearby Quang Nam in recent times, police said. On Sunday, police took Gu to Quang Nam as they expanded the investigation. The arrest was made soon after Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc ordered the Ministry of Public Security to investigate the trafficking of foreigners into central Vietnam, following Saturday morning's confirmation of the first COVID-19 community transmission in 100 days. Authorities have found 73 Chinese nationals illegally entering Da Nang and Quang Nam via unofficial routes over the past few days. On July 21, Da Nang police arrested a Chinese national and 2 Vietnamese citizens to question them about their involvement in human trafficking, but the 3 were granted bail. Vietnam has recorded 4 cases of COVID-19 community transmission in the past few days, 3 in Da Nang and 1 in nearby Quang Ngai province, the first of which broke Vietnam's 99-day streak with no community transmission. Health authorities have yet to confirm what are the infection sources for the cases. The country has banned entry by foreign nationals since March 22 with exceptions and conditions, including 14-day quarantining on arrival. This has been Ralph Randolph Empire bringing you the latest updates here in Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Ralph. 26 Rohingya migrants feared to have drowned off Malaysia after a treacherous boat crossing have been found alive, hiding in bushes on an island, according to officials. A search was launched at the weekend for the Muslim refugees from mostly Buddhist Myanmar after a migrant traveling on the same vessel made it to the island and raised the alarm. He initially said the boat had overturned, but later admitted that wasn't true, and the rest of the group were found late on Sunday, according to Coast Guard Chief Mohammad Zubil Matsam. All the migrants who arrived on a small island off the northwest resort island of Langkawi had been detained and would undergo coronavirus tests before being handed to immigration authorities, according to some. Rohingya escaping persecution in their homeland frequently make sea crossings to Malaysia, but authorities have been seeking to block them from landing in recent months over virus fears. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nation. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.